Okay, so here we are with another G.I. Joe Classified unboxing, and this is Quick Kick. Apparently, they're able to keep the trademark on the name Quick Kick because it's not, MacArthur Quick Kick Ito. But let's have a look at the back of the package. We got Quick Kick, shirtless and barefoot in the Arctic. That's how he was introduced on the cartoon, folks. When people talk about how the comic book was a lot more, realistic than the cartoon, they don't necessarily mean the comic book was realistic. They mean that, you didn't introduce a barefoot, shirtless dude in the Arctic. So we can see storm shadows in the background. We can see a seal. These are Easter eggs. Again, homage to the original cartoon. He fought Storm Shadow in the Arctic. Storm Shadow, he might not have sleeves, but at least he's wearing a shirt, even if it doesn't have sleeves, and he's wearing shoes. So, got a little bit of the detail on his leg there. That's pretty cool. We'll have a look at that when we open it up. Got a throwing star. Nice piece of artwork here on the side. We see that he is number 116. They've made 116 of these figures so far. Isn't that amazing? And a lot of cool accessories. We'll get into that when we open them up. There's the front of them there again. So no bio or anything on this because they don't really do that with the regular classified figures. It's just on the retro figures since it's throwback to the old file cards. So let's go ahead and open them up. And I think this is where we're really starting to get into them giving us a lot of good accessories with these figures. We've seen some good accessories with the figures before, but I think it was really with some of these convention exclusives where they'd have these extra little bits to them, and we're starting to see that now. For example, one of the things that he comes with is Fudgies. Yeah, he comes with a chocolate bar because, again, in that episode, he was apparently in the Arctic because they went up there to shoot a commercial for a chocolate bar. What was it, Frozen Fudgies? What a treat. Doesn't wear shoes, so you see bare feet. I don't think that's the real lyrics. I always thought it was funny whenever they had a martial arts character and did not have any shoes on him, which is how they seemed to do that a lot when I was a kid. And I didn't understand this. I'm like, asked my mom, why isn't he wearing shoes? Well, because he's a martial artist. He's karate guys, they don't wear shoes. Well, yeah, when they're in tournaments and stuff like that, but Quick Kick is obviously based on Bruce Lee. But I mostly remember Bruce Lee as wearing shoes. I'm just saying. I know that Larry Hama, the writer of G.I. Joe, he was not too crazy about the character of Quick Kick, and one of the things that bothered him, the thing that I always remember him saying that bothered him, was that he didn't wear a shirt. And to me, it's like, well, he doesn't wear a shirt, but lots of G.I. Joes don't wear shirts. He could wear shoes. Why isn't he wearing shoes? So he was one of the characters that actually got killed off in the massacre at the hands of the Saw Viper. Larry didn't want to just kill off characters that he didn't like, so he killed off Doc first, because Doc was one of his favorite characters. But Quick Kick was one, he just wanted to get rid of, because he was not a fan of Quick Kick. There was an issue where, after a Quick Kick had beaten up Storm Shadow on the cartoon, it must have gotten back to Larry somehow. He claims he never saw the cartoon, and I'm not going to dispute that. But it must have gotten back to him somehow, because he's like, no. Wrote a story where Storm Shadow kicks Quick Kick's ass in 2 seconds. So oh man. And then we get the throwing stars, and this has kind of got a neat little motion motion line kind of effect to it. But yeah, he was one of the characters that got killed by the Saw Viper. And when they did the 2002 Joe versus Cobra, Spy Troops, Valor versus Venom, that whole revival, they didn't want to do any of the characters that had previously been killed off, but they still kind of wanted to do a Quick Kick character because I guess he was popular enough. They wanted to do a figure of him. So they took Nunchuck, you can see my review of the previous classified Nunchuck to take a look at what he looks like. And redesigned him to look somewhat like Quick Kick. Still did not have shoes. At least he had like kind of some bandages around his feet, but still did not have shoes. They finally got around to doing another one in one of the box sets for 25th anniversary that came with the DVDs, and that one was pretty accurate to the old one, but it had kind of like a weird orangish skin color. And then they finally made a Quick Kick for the Pursuit of Cobra line that was exclusive to Toys R Us and had an outfit that was kind of designed to look like Cobra Kai from Karate Kid, well before Cobra Kai was a show on Netflix. But still, like Karate Kid, just as a movie was popular enough, they were able to do a Cobra Kai homage, and he had the Kung Fu grip fist as like a patch on his gi, which I thought was really cool. And this was a Quick Kick that finally had shoes. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the greatest Quick Kick figure of all time. They also blatantly based his head sculpt off of Bruce Lee. This one doesn't look quite as much like Bruce Lee to me, but I think you can still see a little bit of a Bruce Lee influence in this version of the character. So you saw me pulling all this stuff out while I'm blathering on. Let's have a look at some of his accessories. So he's got 2 of these swords. And then he's got 2 of these nunchucks, which are made out of a fairly pliable material, so they'll bend up a little bit. He's got 2 solid fists, and I'm going to compare real quick to Duke's 2 solid fists, and they look pretty similar, but they're not exactly the same. I want you to look at the pegs, and you'll see that Duke has a completely different size of peg than Quick Kick has. And that gets on my nerves. I feel like the pegs on these should be like universal size. That way you can swap them out with whatever character you want to. Well, we already looked at the throwing stars, so there's that. And last but not least, a red backpack, which the original Quick Kick came with a black backpack, but I don't mind this one being red. I don't mind it being red from the mouth of hell. I'm going hungry. But that's what it looks like with the backpack in. I'll stop singing. And there's the detailing on the sides. Old dragon scale kind of detailing. Pretty cool looking. And he's got a gray web belt with some pouches on it, which I believe on the original figure the pouches were blue rather than gray. But I could be mistaken about that. And we see like the original figure, he has a red strap over his chest with some shuriken stuck in it. Now, as I recall, the original one, the strap across his chest was more like a sash that kind of tucked into his belt, but this is more like a leather bandolier, which to me makes more sense. So, and he does have an alternate head, which looks a little bit more Bruce Lee-like just because of the expression that he's making. I mean, see, like, I can imagine him making some of those crazy sounds that Bruce would make when he was doing his martial arts thing. I was talking the other day with my friend from We Had That, and we were talking a little bit about Bruce Lee and how he was basically like a superhuman. That was a fun conversation. So let's go over some of his accessories. Oh, he's got the 2 kind of flat hands for like, you know, karate chopping or doing a salute even. So he's got the nunchucks. So let's go ahead and get the nunchucks into his hands. And since those are a pliable kind of material, it is a little flooby getting into his hand, but I was still able to get into his hand pretty well. Since it is a flexible material, we can very easily bend it back and tuck it under his arms. Unfortunately, you can see it looks like it's bending a little bit at the stick part of it, whereas really you would just want it to bend at the chain. But he can have it kind of tucked under his armpit like that. And he likes to do a little chucking every now and then. So get the nunchucks into his hands. So there he is with his nunchucks. And of course, they're just straight out. But he does have, you can see, storage on his belt. So we can tuck his nunchucks away on that. And when we do that, They will get folded completely in half. And that's a good thing because then it'll give the chain a little bit less of a stiff sort of feel to it after we leave it in there for a while. So probably next time I go to take these nunchucks out of his belt for whatever reason, then they'll just... Actually, I'm putting them in the wrong way. Because really, if you think about it, I'm just putting them in like I'm not even really paying attention to it. I had them with the chain facing up top. Now, we probably want to have the chain facing down below, don't we? That would make more sense. That way it'd be hanging down instead of the chain sticking up, which kind of defies the laws of physics a little bit. Look at his feet. He's just barefoot, just running around barefoot. A lot of good detail to those feet. They look like, good bare feet. If you got other characters that, you're doing customs with and you want them to have bare feet, hey, here's a character you can get that has some bare feet. Like if you wanted to make Tarzan or something like that. So there we go. We got the nunchucks in his belt now. And then the backpack, I already kind of stuck it on there before, but I didn't leave it on there. But there's what he looks like with the backpack in. And then he's got the 2 swords, which the original Quick Kick, I believe, came with 1 nunchaku and 1 sword. But this one can dual wield both weapons. And it's kind of a short sword. It's kind of a straight sword. I believe this is what you'd call a ninja toe. So it does kind of have some Chinese elements to it, like the pommel on the sword, to me, looks more like a Chinese sword. And he is supposed to be, of mixed heritage. I believe he was Chinese on his father's side and Japanese on his mother's side. No, it's Chinese on his father's side. Chinese on his mother's side and Japanese on his father's side. There, I finally said that right, because MacArthur S. Ito. Japanese name, isn't it? I believe so. Like Judge Ito. But, of course, this was like before Judge Ito was a thing. Now, I don't see any storage for the throwing stars, but it's not really... Because of the motion blur effect, it's not really something that would make sense to have it like tucked into his belt or something. So it's just an accessory you're just going to have to set aside and hope that you don't lose it. Let's go ahead and put the other head on there. And the head pops off rather easily. And hopefully the other head pops on rather easily. So there's what he looks like with the other head on there. Pretty cool. And then, of course, these swords should store in the backpack. So let's go ahead and see how those fit in there. And not quite as snugly as I would like. Hopefully they won't fall out. So there he is, all geared up with everything except for the throwing stars. So let's go ahead and put the throwing stars in his hand so we can see what he looks like when he's throwing a throwing star. Wow! So pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to take the backpack out of his back, and we're going to go over his articulation real quick. He can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. So pretty good range of motion as far as that goes. Head turns all the way around, of course. You can move the head around any which way you want. It does have an additional articulation at the base of the neck where it meets the shoulders. So that gives you a little bit more articulation there. He does have a butterfly cut, and the arms, oh, they're a little stiff, but they move back about that far, and they move forward about that far. This is, I believe, the same torso that was used on Zartan. So we've seen this torso before. Arms rotate all the way around at the shoulders. I think these are new arms, though. And the arms move up at the shoulders about that far. He does have a bicep swivel, so the bicep rotates all the way around that way. He's got double jointed elbows, which this one seems like it's a little stiff towards the top. But there we go. He's got a gray wristband around his wrist. And, of course, the wrists are articulated in such a way where they rotate all the way around. This one on the left has a vertical hinge, and this one on the right also has a vertical hinge. So 2 vertical hinges for Quick Kick. And, of course, he's got the ab crunch here. Like I said, this is unlike Duke, which is an all-new sculpt. This is reusing the torso from Zartan. So he's still got the hinge there. And then the kind of 80s style joint here, only it's like on a proper joint instead of being held together by an O-ring. So you can twist them at the waist, kind of rock them at the waist from side to side. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of that G.I. Joe 80s joint, but it's not quite the same. He can kick up about that far. And you want him to have a really good range of motion because the guy's name is Quick Kick. So of course you want him to do a good kick. So kick the bad guy right in the face. I don't have any G.I. Joe bad guys handy, but we can have him kick the Joker in the face. So pretty cool. And it is the drop down hips. If I haven't mentioned that before, you can see that one hip is a little lower than the other because it's supposed to drop down like that. So that gives us a little more articulation there. He does have a thigh cut. Thigh rotates all the way around. He does have double jointed knees bent all the way back that way. That's pretty cool. He does have what is technically a boot cut, but he's not wearing boots because he's barefoot. So rotates all the way around at the top of the pants. And then the ankle points down about that far, points up about that far, and it is on a rocker ankle, so it can move all the way around that way. So a lot of good articulation for his bare feet. Like I said, when I was a kid, it just really bugged me when I'd have these martial arts characters and they had bare feet, and I just kind of like the first guy that I had that thing going on. And like I said, we just saw this in action figures a lot back then for whatever reason. But KO from Eagle Force. And I didn't really have a lot of Eagle Force when I was a kid, but I got him as like a party favor at one of my cousin's birthday parties. Grandmama would oftentimes buy like just whatever kind of cheap clearance toys she could get, stuff them in these party bags. And that was the one I got, was KO from Eagle Force. This guy in gold lame fatigues and no shoes. And like I just thought it was ridiculous he didn't have shoes. And Quick Kick would suffer the same fate later on when I got him, but I tended to have him go on a lot of missions where he'd have to like go over broken glass or volcanic rock or like hot coals, whatever I could dream up to make this guy regret the fact that he decided to go on a combat mission with no shoes on. I'm sorry, I just thought it was kind of silly. I know there's probably some fans of Quick Kick and maybe a couple of fans of KO out there that are kind of offended that I'm making fun of your character like that, but I don't know, like I just thought it was funny when I was a kid. Now his bandolier, unlike with Duke, what we talked about with that, does not have a hole in the back for the backpack to go into. But still, like, I figure probably the reason they decided to make this a red backpack instead of a black backpack is so that it looks more like it's all part of the same piece of equipment. That this is a backpack that actually is attached to this red bandolier, so it's all red together. So other than the fact that he doesn't have any shoes on, I think they did a really good job with this Quick Kick figure. And of course, like, to be fair about it, like, the original Quick Kick didn't have shoes. So I see why, you would want fidelity to that original version of the character. But at the same time, like, like enough of these figures have been modernized at this point. You could give my boy some shoes. Like, if nothing else, give him like some alternate, like feet here, or we could pull it out and put it back in, and maybe he'd have like some white socks and some black slippers, like you actually think of Bruce Lee as wearing when he did Enter the Dragon, like that type of look. But still, they did a pretty good job with this figure. I'm happy to have him. I like Quick Kick enough as a character, even though he doesn't wear shoes, that I would want to have him in my collection. It's worth pointing out he's in one of my favorite G.I. Joe stories, which I've mentioned before, talking about Outback, but the one where Quick Kick and Stalker and Snow Job and Outback all go undercover on this mission, and they're blown and basically disavowed, and Outback has to make it. He's the only one that's not wounded, so Stalker orders him to go back to civilization on his own. Well, not civilization, but go back to the United States on his own and let him know what really went down, so that hopefully they can mount some kind of rescue mission. So Quick Kick had a big part in that story, although it was mainly like, him just being wounded and, hovering around death in this labor camp. And it was pretty dark. But thankfully, Snake Eyes and Scarlet and Storm Shadow they're able to go and rescue our boys. So they're able to live to fight another day, basically. Unfortunately, Quick Kick did die at the hands of the Saw Viper, and that was the last we saw of him in the comics. But his legacy lives on. A lot of people are fond of this character. I think a lot of that comes from his presence on the Sunbow cartoon, where he did a lot of impressions and was kind of a comic relief character a lot of the times, in addition to being like a pretty badass martial artist. Although not as badass as Storm Shadow, if we're being real about it. I gotta agree with Larry Hama on that. It's like he knows these characters better than anybody. If Larry Hama says that Storm Shadow could beat Quick Kick in like 2 seconds, Storm Shadow can beat Quick Kick in like 2 seconds. I'm just gonna stick with that. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe and all the funny YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the character of Quick Kick and this figure and the character in general. Whatever. We got some cool stuff coming up. I still got 2 more G.I. Joe classified figures that I got in this batch. I haven't gotten Big Boa yet, but maybe I'll be able to pick him up sometime this weekend, and we can look at him next week. But we do have coming up probably, let's see, today's Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. So tomorrow's Saturday. So I think tomorrow I will open the Techno Viper. We'll open them up, and then save it Airborne for last out of these guys, because I'm really excited about Airborne. He's always been one of my favorite characters. So we're gonna get into that. And I got some more cool stuff today. I got finally my Power Stars Phantom figure. And I'm a big fan of superpowers, and I've really been digging these Power Stars, which are made in the style of superpowers, using the Filmation. Filmation. Well, these are kind of similar to the Filmation versions, but not exact. But the King Features characters. So we already saw where I opened up Flash Gordon and Ming the Merciless and Thun, and now I finally have the 4th of this assortment, which is the Phantom. Looking forward to opening him up. Pretty cool. We got also today. I got from Amazon. I got the JLA Batman. That's part of the Build-A-Figure wave with Plastic Man. I was hoping I might have that around here somewhere where I can grab onto, but I set it over on the shelf. I got that. I've got the Plastic Man Build-A-Figure wave version of Superman, which is electric blue Superman. So we'll be opening those up sometime soon, but probably once. I'll wait till I get the first appearance John Stewart and the hook-hand Aquaman, so I can do all of those at once and be putting Plastic Man together. The main reason I bought all of those is because I wanted to build Plastic Man. If I probably would have bought, I certainly would have bought Aquaman and John Stewart, because those are great figures. And I probably would have bought Batman as well, even though that's just a repaint of the 3 Jokers Batman. But it is the sort of thing where, like, that's one of my favorite sculpts of Batman in this line so far. So and it's in black, and he looks good in black. I mean, like you gotta love Batman in all black. He looks really cool that way. And of course, this is based off of Jason Fabok's artwork, and he's probably my favorite modern Batman artist. So I'm really excited about that. So I figure maybe tomorrow, in addition to doing the Techno Viper, I might go ahead and do the Phantom as well as a bonus episode. Do both the purple guys together. That would make sense, right? And then Monday, I will be back with Airborne, and potentially next week I can do Big Boa. If I pick up Big Boa sometime over the weekend, then probably what I'll do is do him on Monday and then do Airborne on Tuesday. That will be my plan for that. So anyway, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.